And then the ER duck comes into my room and sits down. So far, 2025 has not turned out the way I thought it would be at all. So let's talk about it. So that didn't go as planned. I had my craft show May 3rd. It's a Saturday, and I was leaving for vacation on May 4th. The nice thing is the show was really close to the airport, so my husband came with me. We went to the show, and then we just went to the hotel, stayed the night, and flew out the next day. So, you know, I mean, from that perspective, it was nice because I don't really have to count gas in my expenses because we were already going anyway. The show itself was kind of a flop, so my booth fee was only $25. There were about 70 vendors, and I think probably half of the vendors didn't make a single sale. I made my booth fee back, and I made a couple bucks on top of that, but really not anywhere near what I was expecting for this show. There were more vendors than customers. And, you know, that's a real bummer because I already had a show with this coordinator in February, and that show was super, super slow, but it was also Super Bowl Sunday. Nobody realized that when the show got scheduled, and you know, that one's just a wash. I made about $100 at that show, and with a booth fee of $25, I at least, you know, made a little bit. But I was expecting this show to do a lot better, and I actually made less at this show than I did at my Super Bowl show. Anyway, Samsung dryer songs are so long. So we leave for the show. I'm not even going to talk much more about the show because honestly there was just like not much to tell because there was nobody there. Except I did travel almost 2 hours away for the show. So that is now 2 shows that were not great with the same coordinator. So I think that that's the last I'm working with this coordinator. I had to donate something for the show, and that plus a booth fee, and then having like a lot of vendors not even make a sale at all for the whole day. That's not the show for me. It wasn't advertised well, people weren't showing up, and the coordinator seems to think the show went well. So, like, if that's your definition of a good show, I'm not doing your shows. Moving on. We leave at 3 o'clock in the morning the next day. We go on vacation. And we have a great time on vacation. So we went to go visit my husband's sister and her husband. And so we went to Branson, Missouri, which is where they live. They're on a work contract. And we went to Silver Dollar City. We had a bunch of fun. We went to the Titanic Museum, which, by the way, don't go. It ain't worth it. But like, I mean, overall, we had a lot of fun, and it's really early in the season for Branson, which is a super touristy town. And so there was like nobody there, which was nice because when you're paying $100 to go into a theme park and then you have to wait in line for like 2 hours to get on things, it's really frustrating. I think the longest we had to wait for anything was 20 minutes. So we got to ride all the roller coasters. We ate some great food. It was a lot of fun. We also did a mountain coaster, which like goes down a hill. It's outdoor. We did that. We had our second anniversary, so we went out for dinner and like just overall had a really great time. For context, leading up to the reason I'm making this video, I had a kidney infection a few months ago, like early February, late January, early February, and it took 2 rounds of antibiotics, but after that I thought I was fine. Every once in a while, if I drank a lot of alcohol, my kidney would hurt. And I'm like, oh, whatever, maybe I just need to cool it, you know, I'm pushing, you know, I'm staring down the barrel of 30, maybe it's time to lay off a little. So no big deal. We get to Branson, my side is hurting really bad, and it feels like my kidney. But we had just gone on 2 plane rides and a 3-hour drive in a rental car that did not have good back support, so we thought maybe I just like put my back out a little bit and, you know, it'll be fine. I took some ibuprofen. The next couple days I hurt a little bit, but not nearly as bad as the first day, so, you know, took a little more ibuprofen. And then on our last day there, as we're flying home, we fly from Little Rock, Arkansas to Atlanta. By the time that we get into Atlanta, my back hurts so bad that I am in tears, like just streaming down my face. I can't control it. And my husband is looking at me very concerned and said, as soon as we touch down in Detroit, I am taking you to a hospital. I said, absolutely not. You are not going to leave me in the hospital in Detroit and then go home. That's a 2-hour drive. You're going to drive the 2 hours back home and then take me to our local hospital. So he took me there. We went to the ER. One thing I will say about the hospital that I went to, I'm not going to say where for like privacy purposes because I don't want anybody knowing where I live, but I was admitted to the ER in a hospital bed in a gown within like 30 or 45 minutes. And then they send me up for a CT scan. I've never had a CT scan. It was kind of fun, like kind of cool. It only takes 10 minutes. It's painless, which is nice after being poked and prodded several times. And then the ER doc comes into my room and sits down. That's not generally a good sign. And he showed me my CT scan, which, trigger warning for anybody who doesn't like medical things, I am going to show a couple of the pictures. So I will put a timestamp here to where you can skip to if you don't want to see that. But they did identify that it was my kidney, my left kidney. And they said, hey, there's a blockage. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe it's a kidney stone. They said, no, not a kidney stone. I said, uh-oh, what do you mean? Is there a tumor? Like, what is going on? They said, no. It's probably a birth defect that just doesn't show up until adulthood. It's fairly common, but essentially your kidney is completely blocked. And so what's happening is the more water that you're drinking, the more water is just backing up in the kidney and it doesn't have anywhere to go. And so your kidney, which is normally like this big, I think, is like this big. Case in point. So this one right here, this is my left kidney. This one is my right kidney. So as you can see, my right kidney is a normal size. My left kidney is gigantic. They wanted to put me in for emergency surgery. Like right away, they're like, this is going to be a problem. They decided after talking to me a little bit and going through stuff, they said, you know what, we're actually just going to do it outpatient. The reason why they wanted to do it outpatient is because they wanted to run an additional test. And the machine that they have to use for that test, it's renal imaging with Lasix. So it's through nuclear medicine, and the machine was down. So they said, you know what, we're going to send you home, schedule it, tell them Monday, and we'll get you in, we'll get stuff. We're going to look at kidney function to decide what we need to do because we don't want to do a more invasive surgery than we have to. Okay, cool. I call nuclear medicine. 20 minutes later, it's not like I waited. I'm like, hey, they told me to schedule for Monday. Nuclear medicine says, we don't even do that test on Monday. Earliest we can get you in is Thursday. I'm like, okay, fine, Thursday. Little did I know, the hospital only prescribed me enough pain meds to get me to Monday. So anyway, it's fine. I took ibuprofen over the counter and Tylenol over the counter to get me through. We get to Thursday. I do the renal imaging. It does not take a radiologist to know that that renal imaging looked really bad. And I, if you have questions about it, I'm happy to go more in depth as to what that test looks like. But for now, we're just going to skip that, say it was bad, and that I don't wish that test upon anybody. It was unpleasant. They said, we'll get you your results in 5 days. Okay, what about pain meds? No, nothing, because I didn't talk to a doctor, just the radiology tech. So I called to make a follow-up with the urologist, and they put me in for 12 days out because they needed the results from that imaging test. Well, then they call me and they schedule my surgery. This was Monday. So today is Thursday and my follow-up appointment is not until next Tuesday. But Monday they called and they said, hey, we are going to schedule your surgery. I'm like, oh, okay. Did the results come in from my renal imaging exam? They said, no, not yet. Like, was that test necessary if you were going to schedule me for surgery anyway? Well, it turns out it was, because they were checking function. They put me on the books for a surgery, and then they were going to decide if they needed to do a more invasive surgery after that. But anyway, I'm on the books for surgery. They are going to go in. It's minimally invasive, but I've got probably a week of downtime. That's scheduled for mid-June. And for now, I'm just waiting for my follow-up. But yeah, so I went from craft show, bad craft show, to vacation to ER. Now, here's the bummer deal news. The surgery is scheduled for June 18th. I have to be in the hospital for 24 hours for observation, so I'll be there until the 19th. I have a craft show June 20th and 21st, and it is my favorite location from last year. It's a show I did in September last year, and I wanted to do their June and their September shows. I don't think I'm going to make it now. So I already let the coordinator know. They're being super cool about it, but that means that my next craft show isn't until July, like mid-July. And I'm really bumming because I already had to cut my craft shows down when I picked up another job. And now I'm having all of this going on. And oh, by the way, because I work in food service, I don't have health insurance. So just my ER bill and the imaging exam, not my follow-up, not my surgery, I'm already owing the hospital $7,300. And my surgery looks like it's going to be about another $12,000. So I'm looking at being 20 grand in the hole at the end of all of this, because one of my kidneys decided it would like to explode. So, if there was ever a time to subscribe to my channel so that I can get monetized, now would be the time. Oh my god. So anyway, yeah. Yesterday was the first day that I have not had to take any pain meds. I have been on pretty heavy pain meds most of the time. So I got some cleaning done. I'm about to head to work, and I will check back in when I get home from my double shift today. Good morning. It's the next day. So, yeah, I don't know that there's really much else to tell. I didn't take any video footage when I was at my craft show, but I do want to actually do a recap of that show. So it was an indoor-outdoor show in Garden City, Michigan, which is really close to Romulus, which is where the Detroit airport is. So it worked out really well for us to do the show and then, plan on flying out of Detroit the next day. So, we packed up everything in my husband's car because he has a car that can fit all of my craft show stuff plus both of us. My car, I can fit me and barely my craft show stuff because I drive a little car. So we go to get set up. I'm outdoor and it looks like it's gonna rain. Not feeling real great. We set up. The show is from 2 to 6, which was nice because we didn't have to leave, you know, early as all get out in the morning. My first sale was at $2.26 and I sold 4 scrunchies. I sell them at $4 a piece, so it would have been 16. I told her 15 was fine. So that was 15 cash. And then at $2.49, I sold a pink axolotl for $13, and that was on a card. And then at $2.54, I sold one of my chunky cats, the loaf cat, which is the Annie Caraway art pattern, for $20 cash. And I thought, you know, okay, for the first hour, that felt pretty good. Like 3 sales in an hour, right when the show is opening. I felt like that was good. And I'm like, oh, I have some hope for this show. So that was $2.54. My next sale was at $3.50. And that was another loaf cat for $20. And then at $4.16, I sold a mini bee for $6. At $4.48, I sold a leggy frog for $10. $4.57, I walked away from my booth and one of the other vendors came over and bought a sprig of lavender for $6. And then at $5.25, someone else bought 2 pieces of lavender for $12. That's it for the whole show. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sales for the whole show. Now, all total, I made $112. So the booth fee was $25, so it was 4x the booth fee. I'm not counting that as a good show. I think that the amount of money over the booth fee needs to be a lot higher for me to feel good about it. But I had no gas expense. We did buy food, so, you know, my take home was less than $112. And once you take into account all of the, like, the time and the materials, there's no profit here. But, you know, it was $98 minus, you know, the food that we had. So $98 that I took from this show that I didn't have before. Yeah, my goal was like $250 for this show. I was hoping for $250. And, you know, whatever, it's fine. But after my last show with this coordinator and then this show, I just don't feel like it's worth it to drive as far as I do for her shows and not have any sort of real return. She also, like, just as a coordinator, she kind of rubs me the wrong way, which, you know, she might be great for other people, but to me, when you put all of your vendors in a Facebook group and then post something every day to them, which is nice, at least she's communicating, but then requires you to get on Facebook Live to go over the rules for the show, when you don't know how to use Facebook Live and you spend an hour trying to figure out technical difficulties and get really mad if vendors leave your live, I don't know. I don't like that. You know, figure your stuff out. And, you know, at the show, she's nowhere to be found most of the time. And I think it's because she's also a vendor. And that also irritates me a little bit, because when the coordinators of a show are also vendors, the day of, they become extremely unavailable. And I just don't care for that. Her sister, and her friend, all 3 of them work on this show to coordinate it. And all 3 of them are vendors. So to me, it really feels like they're just putting on a show because they want to do a show, not because they want to actually put on a successful show. So, yeah, I'm not going to trash talk the coordinator a bunch. You know, she rubs me the wrong way. There are things that, you know, she kind of makes threats in her groups to her vendors that, like, if I don't see you advertising for the show, I'll kick you out of my group and I will tell all of my other vendor coordinator friends to not invite you to shows. That bothered me. If you take up an attitude with me at my show, I will call the cops on you. That rubs me the wrong way. I'm sorry. Like, as someone who works in a service industry, when you're doing a show, you're putting on a service and you are there to serve your vendors. I understand that there are exigent circumstances when, you know, I've dealt with some vendors that I thought were extremely rude, difficult to work with. But if you feel the need to reiterate that in every time that you talk to your vendors, that like, don't rub me the wrong way, I'll call the cops. Problem. So yeah, anyway, that is 2 shows down for the year that both I'm marking as not a success. And now with my surgery coming up, I most likely won't be doing my June show. And so then I just have 1 in July, 2 in August, 1 in September, and I'm done for the year. So yeah, I did decide that I am going to start a couple of blankets, just throw blankets, nothing huge, because I just learned how to do overlay mosaic crochet, which is cool because I hate color changing in the middle of a row, and overlay mosaic works in stripes. So you do a double crochet down into the front loop of the row before if you're trying to like build a solid color. And then the back of it is all just like stripes going one way. So you never have to change your color in the middle of a row. You just change your color every row. And so I did a practice panel, which I'm going to put right here. I found an amazing pattern designer. Her name is Crochet with May. And I bought like 7 of her patterns. So I did a practice panel from one of her blankets. I am working on 2 blankets from her right now, one of them which goes in straight rows and one that works in a square. And I'm still trying to figure out the instructions on that one. I'm not sure if that's a me problem that I'm not understanding or if I need to contact her to clarify. But my first niece is going to be due in September, so I will be working on her baby blanket. And then I'm also working on a throw blanket for myself because while I'm in recovery for this surgery, I'm going to need something to do. So that's what I'm working on. Anyway, thank you so much for watching if you're still here. And hopefully, you know, life gets a little better for me and a little smoother for a while, and we'll see how things go. But I'm not gonna let my channel die, and yeah, just stick around, follow along. Please like this video, get it out there. I got shadow banned and people, like 30 people see my videos now. And make sure that you subscribe if you haven't already, because that helps me out a bunch. All right, I'll catch you in the next one.